When you look at Japan from the outside, maybe it looks something like this: a perfect advanced country where people study hard, get a good job, and work properly. Everyone has an ikigai, a purpose in life, and they work smoothly from morning till night. Trains are almost never late, the streets are clean, and crime feels low. Salarymen with samurai spirit quietly sacrifice their lives for the company and keep the Japanese economy running. Japanese people just love working. They're so disciplined. I think a lot of people still see Japan through that kind of clean, beautiful story. But the reality behind that story is very different from what you probably imagine. At least for me, I'm definitely not working this much because I love my job. My boss doesn't love his job. My friends don't love their jobs. Even my parents, as far as I know, don't love their jobs either. What keeps us moving isn't passion, it's fear. Fear of being left behind, fear of disappointing people, fear of falling out of the circle and becoming someone who never makes it back in. That's the scariest part. Hey, I'm 23, a first-year salaryman working in Shibuya, Tokyo. I take home about.
By the end, we decided to schedule another meeting next week to discuss it further. 3 hours, zero decisions, and the website project that should have launched last month is now pushed back another 2 weeks at minimum. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there thinking, in the time we spent in that meeting, I could have actually built half the website myself. But I can't say that, because saying that would mean I'm not respecting the process. I'm not reading the air. I'm being arrogant. So instead, I stay quiet. I nod. I write notes that don't matter. And when the meeting finally ends at 8 p.m., I go back to my desk and start on the actual work I was supposed to do during the day. The work that actually moves things forward. This is what I mean by inefficiency. It's not that Japanese workers are lazy. It's that the system is designed to distribute responsibilities so thinly that nobody has to actually take any. And when nobody takes responsibility, nothing moves. And when nothing moves, we stay later and later trying to make up for lost time. There's this phrase in Japanese companies, nemawashi. It means laying the groundwork. Basically, before any decision gets made officially, you're supposed to go around to everyone individually, feel out their opinion, build consensus quietly behind the scenes. Only then can you bring it to a meeting and make it look like everyone naturally agreed. In theory, this prevents conflict. In practice, it means every single decision requires hours and hours of invisible prep work. You have to have meetings before the meetings, and sometimes meetings after the meetings to debrief about what was said in the meeting. I have a coworker. She's been here 5 years, and she told me once, in this company, the real work isn't doing the work. It's making sure everyone feels comfortable about the work being done. And honestly, that's the most accurate description I've heard. So when people ask me, why do Japanese people work so late? The answer isn't because we're incredibly productive and just have so much to do. The answer is because we spend half our time managing the feelings and egos in the room and the other half doing the actual work. And that's why nobody goes home. Reason 2. It's not my company is my family. It's if I leave, I become the traitor. The next image a lot of foreigners seem to have is this. Japanese people treat their company like family. They have lifetime employment, so everyone feels safe staying in one place forever, right? That image as an official system is already outdated. Lifetime employment has almost collapsed on paper. Even the president of Toyota has said that lifetime employment is hard to maintain. But what hasn't really changed is what's inside people's heads. In Japan, Even now, there's this air. If you stay at the same company for a long time, you're solid and respectable. If you quit after a short time, you're weak, childish, and can't endure anything. That air is still stuck to the ceiling of a lot of offices. And that atmosphere does something dangerous. Even when people know this job doesn't fit me, even when they're thinking, I seriously want to quit, more and more of them end up erasing quit from their own list of options. Meanwhile, seniority is still alive and well. Young workers get low pay but carry a lot of the workload. Older employees get higher salaries, mainly because they've been here longer. So young workers basically become cheap, high output batteries, low cost pieces that are expected to work long hours by default. In many countries, the mindset is more like if it doesn't fit, change jobs. If you perform well, you can earn good money even in your 20s. That's considered normal. In Japan, even now, the moment you say, I'm leaving,
Reason 3. It's not we are workaholics. It's saying I need rest is scarier than burning out. From the outside, Japanese people often look like hardcore workaholics. They must really love their jobs. They must actually want to stay late. I'll say this clearly. Most Japanese people are not overworking because they love their job. What we're addicted to isn't work itself. We're addicted to playing the role of the version of ourselves that never lets anyone down. Japan even has a specific word, garoshi, death from overwork. The fact that such a precise word exists as a normal term already tells you a lot about this country. And still, people push themselves. Why? The logic is simple. In this society, saying I'm exhausted, I need to rest, feels worse than saying I'm dying, but I'll come in. The second one makes you sound like a good person. So we end up prioritizing our boss's mood, our coworkers' opinions, and one line on an evaluation sheet over our own body. I think this is Japan's real addiction. We don't know how to step down from the role of the responsible one who never causes trouble. We want to be good. We don't want to disappoint anyone. We don't want to be a burden. Stack that mindset over years and long working hours become normal. Garoshi becomes something you just see on the news sometimes. Say, that's sad, and then go back to work. In many countries, laws that limit working hours actually work in real life. Japan has laws too, but in this country, the atmosphere in the room is stronger than the law. So reason number 3 is this. Japanese people don't work this much just because of love for work or extra money. They work this much because in this culture, it feels safer to push yourself until you break than to simply say, I need to stop. Let me tell you about a day I'll probably never forget. It was a Thursday in July. I'd been working on a proposal for a new client for 3 weeks straight, late nights every single day, barely sleeping, living on convenience store food and coffee. That Thursday, I woke up and my chest felt tight. Not painful exactly, just tight, like someone was pressing down on it. I thought maybe it was stress, maybe I slept weird. I got on the train anyway. By the time I got to the office, I felt dizzy. My hands were shaking. I sat at my desk and tried to start working, but I couldn't focus on the screen. Everything felt far away. I went to the bathroom and splashed water on my face, looked at myself in the mirror. I looked terrible. Gray skin, dark circles. I barely recognized myself. I thought, I should go home. I should see a doctor. Something is wrong. But then I thought, the proposal is due tomorrow. If I leave, someone else will have to finish it. They'll be angry. They'll think I'm weak. They'll think I can't handle pressure. So I went back to my desk. I worked through the dizziness. I worked through the tight chest. I worked through the shaking hands. And I finished the proposal. Sent it off at 9 p.m., felt proud of myself even. The next morning, I finally went to a clinic. The doctor did some tests, checked my blood pressure, asked me about my sleep, my stress levels, my work hours. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You need to rest. Your body is telling you to stop." I asked him what was wrong with me. He said it looks a bit like an adjustment disorder. Basically, your mind and body are struggling to cope with the stress you're under. If you keep going like this, it's going to get worse. I nodded. I said,
Behind all that politeness, what exists isn't just beauty or harmony. There's constant pressure to erase yourself and match the room. So reason number 4 is this. Japanese people don't stay late just because someone explicitly tells them to. They stay late because they're trapped in a space where no one orders them directly, but everyone is always watching. I want to tell you about something that happened last month. It was a Friday evening, around 6 p.m. Officially, our workday ends at 5:30. In reality, nobody leaves before 7 at the earliest, usually closer to 8 or 9. But that Friday, I'd actually finished everything I needed to do. My tasks were done, my emails were answered. There was genuinely nothing left for me to work on, and I was exhausted. It had been a brutal week. I wanted to go home, make some real food, maybe watch a movie, do something that reminded me I was human. So I started packing up my stuff, closed my laptop, put it in my bag, stood up. The moment I stood up, I felt it. Eyes on me. Not obvious staring, just that subtle awareness that people had noticed. I glanced around. A few people were looking at their screens, but I could tell they were tracking me in their peripheral vision. My section chief was still at his desk. He wasn't my direct boss, but he was senior to me. If I left before him, it would look bad. I sat back down. I opened my laptop again, pretended to check something. 10 minutes passed, 15. I checked again. Section chief still there. I waited longer. Around 6:45, I tried again. Packed up slowly this time, trying to look casual, like I wasn't in a hurry to leave, just naturally finishing for the day. I made it to the elevator, pressed the button. The doors opened. I stepped inside, and just as the doors were closing, I heard someone say, "Ah, heading out early today." It was a coworker from another team. Friendly tone, smiling, but the words felt like an accusation. I said, "Yeah, finished up my work for today." Tried to sound casual. The doors closed. And the whole way down, I felt guilty, like I'd done something wrong, like I'd abandoned my team, even though I knew logically that I'd done my work, that I'd earned the right to leave. When I got outside, instead of feeling relieved, I felt anxious. I kept thinking, are they talking about me right now? Are they saying I left early? Will it show up in my evaluation? The next Monday, nothing was said directly, but at lunch, someone made a comment. "Must be nice to have such a light workload that you can leave at 6:30 on a Friday." Laughing like it was a joke, but it wasn't a joke. It was a reminder, a warning. Don't do that again. And I haven't. Since then, even on days when I finish early, I stay. I find ways to look busy. I organize files that don't need organizing. I reread documents I've already read. I scroll through emails. Anything to fill the time until it's socially acceptable to leave. That's what I mean by invisible CCTV. There's no camera in the office. There's no official rule that says you have to stay late. But everyone is watching. Everyone is judging, and the fear of that judgment is more powerful than any written rule. In Japanese, there's a phrase, "Deru kugi wa utareru." The nail that sticks out gets hammered down. If you're different, If you stand out, if you break the pattern, you get punished. Not officially, not with a formal reprimand, but socially. With comments, with looks, with the slow erosion of people's respect for you. So we learn not to stick out. We learn to match the rhythm of the room. I remember when I was in high school, a teacher asked our class, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I realized I didn't have an answer, not a real one. The only thing I could think of was someone who works at a good company. Not a writer, not a teacher, not an entrepreneur, not even a specific profession, just someone who works at a good company. That was the goal. That was the dream. And I wasn't unusual. Most of my classmates said the same thing. We wanted to get into a good university so we could get into a good company. That was success. That was the path. Nobody asked us what we were passionate about. Nobody asked us what made us feel alive. Nobody asked us what kind of life we wanted to live. The questions were always practical. What's your rank in the class? What school are you aiming for? What company do you want to join? So we studied. We memorized. We took tests. We competed. And by the time we graduated university and got our job offers, we were exhausted. But we'd made it. We'd reached the goal. We were officially successful. Except we weren't happy. Because the goal we'd been chasing for 20 years wasn't actually ours. It was society's goal. It was our parents' goal. It was what everyone expected. But it wasn't what we wanted. We just never stopped long enough to figure out what we wanted. I have a coworker. Let's call him Yamada. He's 32, been at the company for 10 years, works late every night, comes in on weekends, never takes vacation. I asked him once, "What do you do for fun?" He looked confused, said, "I don't know. Work, I guess." I pushed a little, but outside of work, hobbies, interests, things you enjoy. He thought for a long time. Finally said, "I used to like drawing back in middle school, but I haven't done it in years. No time." And I realized that's what happens. We get on this track when we're kids. Study, university, company. And somewhere along the way, we lose whatever it was that made us individuals. Drawing, music, sports, reading, cooking, whatever it was that made us feel like ourselves gets sacrificed to the goal of becoming employable. By the time we're adults, we're shells. We can introduce ourselves by saying where we work, what department we're in, what our title is. But if you take all that away, we don't know who we are. I think that's why Japanese people work so much. Not because we love it, but because without it, we're nothing. Our identity is our job. Our value is our company. Our purpose is our title. Take that away, and what's left? I don't have a good answer to that. I'm 23. I'm still trying to figure out who I am outside of first-year salaryman at a company in Shibuya. Sometimes I try to remember what I liked before I started working, what made me happy, what I wanted to do with my life. And honestly, I can't remember. It feels like a different lifetime, a different